to Dr Adrian Saville, Chief Executive at Cannon Asset Managers. He's an economist who found himself in a room yesterday. It was going to be a meeting with Afrikaners. Then was a meeting with white compatriots. Then it was a meeting to which anybody who really was interested could go to. And you went to that meeting, Adrian Saville. Were you nonplussed, blown away, or petrified?
I think it landed up being a meeting of people in Sandton. That was the final gathering. Bruce, if I had to find sort of a single word that captured my emotion, my sense on the evening, it was sad that we find ourselves in this circumstance. It's a fragile state. The words that come out of the president are words of, we're diverse and, it's a beautiful country. Absolutely. Diversity and beauty are enduring attributes of this country. But, that diversity rather manifests as differences and inequality, and the beauty is hidden beneath. Well, listening to your previous interview, the real structural challenges that face us, and there just wasn't a sense of sort of sober recognition of the true extent of those problems.
Yeah, I mean, the president is very good at telling audiences what they want to hear. He's a remarkable communicator from that respect. So he'll go into a room of predominantly business people within Sandton and say, yeah, crime's a problem. Yes, we need to lock up the bad guys. You've got my commitment on that. And yes, we're going to do this. And yes, we're going to do that. One wonders just how much real authority there is in order to facilitate the sort of tough speak that the president doles out.
Well, I think two aspects of that. The one is, yes, he's fantastic at capturing the attention, the hearts, the minds of an audience. But I think any good politician, that's exactly the ask, is that you capture people's heads and hearts. So, to hear the things that you want to be told, well, I think that's the work of electioneering. Yeah. In the same breath, though, there is a call, there is a need for a sober recognition, and we do need to hear an honest assessment of the state of play. And there were moments of honesty, discussions about, I think, Eskom is a case in point. But to my liking, just not enough reach for here is the true extent of the problem. The one place where he did make sort of very firm, bold statements was on the issue of holding people to account for previous criminal or acts which are crimes against the state.
Yeah, strong statements. And again, many South Africans frustrated that we're not seeing that sort of action being brought to book ahead of elections. We're not seeing. There's lots of evidence about there. Lots of there are lots of books being written. There's lots of material being published over the last couple of years, and the investigatory powers of the state have been severely denuded. We know all of this. I mean, this week we saw the reappointment of Willie Hofmeyer at the Assets Forfeiture Unit. We saw Edward Kisvetter announce his return to SARS. All of these are positive building blocks, but it really feels like the proof of the pudding will be in the eating, and we yet to put the pudding into the oven to bake it.
Yeah, very difficult to see. I'm not a political analyst, but just hard to, as an armchair commentator, hard to see how, given the circumstances and the constituents that make up the body politic, how it's possible to go firmly onto the front foot at the same time that you want to capture 60% of the vote. So a rather invidious and incredibly awkward position. Judge Janice Davis, I think, made a really interesting observation on this front, where he said it's now up to Shamila Batoli, and arguably the next 6 months will determine the seriousness, or will demonstrate the real seriousness with which this issue of state capture and the criminal actions or alleged criminal actions are being treated and taken, and that it's the next 6 months which unfortunately those 6 months straddle the election, so we won't know until after.
Yeah, I mean, there's a high level of frustration with the fact that the state is not working, that the state is constantly in the way of progress, or perceived by business people to be in the way of progress. I was talking to one owner of a small but rapidly growing business the other day, and he goes, "Boy, I hope it's a coalition. I really hope it's a coalition." I said, "But that'd be chaotic. We've seen the chaos play out in Port Elizabeth. We've seen, to varying degrees of success, what's happened in Pretoria, Tshwane, and in the city of Johannesburg." And he says, "Yeah, if politicians just keep busy amongst themselves, they'll stop bothering us and we can build businesses. Perhaps that's the best we can hope for."
Yeah, there was reference in some of the questions that were put to the president, questions around ease of doing business, or rather difficulty of doing business in South Africa, the importance of stable energy supply, getting red tape and bureaucracy out of the way. And also, I think some demonstrations or illustrations of what can happen when we do collaborate. A great example being Youth at Work, Erica Kempkin's initiative, which puts young people into schools and takes administrative burden off teachers' hands, and the results there are they're notable.
No, there's lots of good stuff going on, lots of good stuff, but lots of frustration too. Adrian Saville, thank you for giving us an insight into that meeting last night. He was amongst the South Africans, the Santonites, who gathered to listen to the president yesterday. The president telling many of the delegates there exactly what they wanted to hear. Some would have swallowed it hook, line and sinker, and some would have emerged tut-tutting, no doubt. But at the same time, the president is headed to an election in just over a month. The economy is in tatters. Much of the infrastructure that underpins that economy is severely damaged or broken.